we're seeing Bayelsa State Government taking actions to ensure that it regulates the activities of mainly illegal wood loggers. Well, joining us in the studio to expand this conversation, actually joins us virtually, is a former Environment Commissioner in Bayelsa State, Engineer Udengs Eradiri. He joins us virtually. Engineer Udengs, you're welcome on Niger Delta Today.
Yes.
Well, we also have in the studio an environment development expert. Here's Leo Asuquo. Mr. Leo, you're welcome on Niger Delta today. It's good to have you on the program.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Udengs. And considering the nature of things now, the discussion on climate change, the discussion on deforestation, and how that affects the generality of the people, both their livelihoods as well as the climate. I'll throw the question first to you, Engineer Udengs Eradiri. Do you think the move by the state government is commendable at this time? The step they have taken, is that really commendable at this time?
Well, first of all, let me greet everyone in the studio as well as Nigerians who are watching. Happy New Year and a prosperous 2025 to you all.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that the Ministry of Environment in Bayelsa, led by the Commissioner, Honorable Ben Ololo, actually took the right step. When I was Commissioner for that ministry, the first thing I did was to clear the forest, because there were a lot of illegal activities going on. People log in there, people in and kill all kinds. For you to take charge of the process, first you need to shut the forest so that all those who are protesting, as you can see now, are now coming out to show that we are the ones who are carrying out activities in the forest. Government must know who is entering the forest, because we are talking about climate change. How do you mitigate against climate change without knowing those who are involved in the activities that contribute to climate change? So the first thing the ministry, which they have done, and I commend, is that they have closed the forest, so that all those who are doing business must come to government. Government can now sit down and say, look, these are no-go areas. We have reserve areas. In Bayelsa, we used to have the only red monkey in the world is in Bayelsa. But there is a lot of poaching going on. There's a lot of destruction of the habitat that is making most of these animals go extinct. So government must know who is entering that forest, one, to control the activities, and two, to generate resources, because there's a lot of economic activities involved in what is going on. And for you to be able to generate resources, IGR, create jobs in your state, then you must know what is happening. So I want to say it's a right step in the right direction, and it will allow government manage its forest in totality.
All right, Engineer Udengs, I was going to quickly ask you, what time span would you think is okay for the government to do what it needs to do and then resume activities in its forests in Bayelsa State, especially considering these timber traders are complaining that it is having a bad toll on their businesses and they are losing a lot. Some of them had to borrow monies to invest in this business, and others even complained about how it has affected their business adversely. What time frame would you think is appropriate for the government to adopt in ensuring that they...
First, what are they complaining? They have been making money with recourse to government. They have been abusing forests that eventually have negative effect on the environment. So for me, I would have been listening to all that. When I came in, I looked at the books. I saw that a lot of these people were logging and not paying to government. And by the time we reorganized the forest, we were generating over 40 million every month. The records are there because they were all paying to government account. So all these years that they have been carrying out nefarious activities without recourse to government, I've paid for the few months or weeks that this process will be on. Because the truth is that we cannot sit here and now give a time frame. It depends on what the government wants to achieve. If the government wants to ensure that it profiles its forest, that takes time. If the government wants to ensure that it's set up, we had proposed that let us have a wood market in Bayelsa where our wood will be processed, just like in Akwa Ibom, where the Chinese are working with the Akwa Ibom government, and their wood is processed in the state. So the entire value chain can trickle down to support employment and economy in the state. So it depends on planning of the government. So if you talk about time frame, then the commissioner is the one that will tell us that, look, these are the areas we are looking at. We want to profile cash crops that are being destroyed. Ogbono, for instance, how many ogbonos do we have in the forest in southern Niger or in Kirimo? Those are the things that the government will look at. Do we have forest guards? Are they going to train more forest guards to man those areas? How many areas in the state are forest reserve environment? And if they are forest reserve environment, what practices are we going to put in place? They are going to educate communities so that they don't get connived with those illegal loggers. Again, our wood need to be stamped. When I was commissioner, I went to London to produce our stamp, our wood, our hammers for Bayelsa wood, so that anywhere you see wood coming from Bayelsa or River State or Delta, you'll be able to identify the wood, because part of Bayelsa is on a transit lane where things going to River State may pass through Bayelsa, or wood coming from River State to Lagos will pass through Bayelsa. You should be able to identify. If I go to the market in Lagos or in Sapele, I should be able to know that this is Bayelsa wood. A lot of these people go and produce their own hammers. So government must come up with a security coded hammer to be able to identify its wood when they move. So you must put all this in place before you say, I'm going to give this process 1 month, I'm going to give it 2 months. But whether the people are losing business, for me, that is immaterial, because these people have been collecting for over how many years? Revenues from the forest do not go to government. It goes into their pocket. What they do, they settle some of these touts on the road, and that is it. They go to the ministry, connive with 1 or 2 directors, and that is it. Bayelsa State have been losing so much money, and to get the money back to the state coffers and ensure that we get the value chain from the wood and the forest, and also to ensure that we protect endangered crops, the government must come with a holistic plan, and that plan depends on them, the time frame that will be given.
Okay, Engineer Udengs, as much as we also have in the studio an environmentalist who would also make some comments with regards to this situation, I'd like to ask, from your point of view, don't you think this is too harsh on the people, considering that government is meant to work in the interest of the people, and the people are complaining? There are people who are supposed to complete building their houses, and there are people who have other activities which will make them have money as well as pay tax to government. Isn't this too harsh on the people?
Okay, first and foremost, I want to say hello to my engineer over there and then the viewers. Government policies come when they are ready to do it. And you're saying the policy is harsh. Most of the time in this part of the globe, you must take a serious decision before you can do this. Now, if government were supposed to negotiate with these people, you know it may be difficult. They may riot, they come out with something that will make government not to do it. But in the part of the government, you won't put all the blame on these citizens that are making their ends meet from this. First, government did not make this policy available before now. They would have adhered to this policy, I believe that. Now, you are coming out with a policy. Yes, you have started this policy. Have you made plans available? What time frame do you have to put these policies in place so that you get back these people? These are people's money. In as much as we advocate for protection of the environment, which was supposed to be policies before now. These policies are policies that were supposed to be given out before now. And then people like this, he talked about the forest guard and the rest of them, mount these policies. So in the part of the government, they failed before now. So bringing the policy to bear, people don't need to die because you want to bring this policy to bear. So by the time you're making this policy, look at the time frame and then make sure these people will have a way of getting whatever they get their money from, because there's no need saying you want to bring in policy and then you are putting much. We are talking about a hard economy. and then you are putting so much stress on them. Okay, if they say they have this investment, bring your policy to bear. Tell them this is what you need to do before you get into the forest. We know how bad it is that this part of the globe, we don't look at the environmental hazard and whatever effect we push to the environment. We keep on exploiting the environment, getting from the environment, and then we forget about how we can protect this environment. Now, government have seen the need to protect the environment, protect the diverse biodiversity, and then protect everything that has to do with the environment, because most of them are getting extinct. He talked about the the color of a monkey. You are not seeing those things there again, because when you disturb them, they run away. And then when they run away, it's very hard to get them back, because they believe they need to stay in an environment that is very perfect and very clean and serene for them.
Okay.
No, you don't disturb them.
Okay, Engineer Udengs, I just want to understand, is there some form of licensing for the loggers or people who have one activity or the other in the forest to help check those who exploit the trees
illegally?
Okay, when I was there, I met they are about contracts, 10 contracts to those who operate in the logging sector. So you have a 10 contract for January to December. So when I wanted to step in, I found out that there will be litigations because of the 10 contracts they already had with government. So I waited until the end of the term. So I'm sure that this commissioner also waited till the end of the contracts that they already had. And if that is correct, they also know that they are holding a contract with government between a period, and once that contract term elapses, it is expected that a new government that is coming may come up with a new policy. So they know. The truth is that they do not. I can go back to the archives and come with the files, the bank statements, that they agreed with government, and yet they were not paying those sums into the government coffers. And that was why I took drastic actions, cancelled most of those contracts and contractors that were involved, and advertised for fresh contractors to come in with a new policy that governed it. We also said that, look, before you move in, there are certain trees that we itemized as economic trees that are endangered that you must not log. We also trained forest guards. You know, you also have a problem of government not releasing the resources enough for the ministry to be able to carry out its functions effectively. So we're supposed to train forest guards. Those forest guards will man those forests and monitor those who are going in and out with a view of looking at the licenses that they have to ensure it conforms with the state. Now you have wood hammers. I was talking about it earlier. That has the print and the seal of the state. Once that hammer is on a wood, it shows that the person must have gone through the entire licensing process of government. So you have people who go and check. When you come out with the wood, they hammer it and stamp it with the logo of the state. So these things are there. But you know, politics have destroyed productivity in our institutions. So that's what they do. You get certain commissioners who do not follow the rules as it should be. They come in as politicians and just do it the way that they do them. And so it becomes a norm where people who are friends to government, people who are party leaders, hold these contracts. They are paid from whatever positions they hold in government or whatever patronages they get. They still hold those contracts and then now not pay their fees to government. So, and then when you come up, they will now go to governor and say, you know, so that we be the leaders of the party. Why will no shop? You need a leadership that will say, no, what is the state government due? You must pay it, no matter how highly placed you are. But that now depends on the leader in the ministry and his relationship with the governor and how he is able to convince the governor that this is actually resources that could have added value to the state, and that these people may be your friends, they may be party leaders, but they are actually violating and contributing to the poverty in the state. So those are a lot of layers that we need to look at. But if you talk about licensing, yes, you are not allowed to go into the forest reserve areas. The Dumanu Forest Reserves and the Apoi Forest Reserves are one of the most critical forest reserves in this country. People are not supposed to go in there. But you know, the ministry is supposed to educate the community so that they don't go and start poaching and killing some of these endangered species that are found there. Only red monkey in the world is found in Idumanu Forest Reserve and Apoi Forest Reserve in Bayelsa. But how do we know? When I was commissioner, National Geography wrote us, they wanted to start us with $1 million per year to be using that place for research and sending students to that place. But you know, we need to deal with the issue of security in the Niger Delta. When you begin to hear about kidnapping and things like that, it drives away those foreign direct investments that ordinarily should come because of our natural environment. So what the ministry is doing and the commissioner, Honorable Ben Ololo, is doing is to try to protect the natural reserve of Bayelsa State, which of course is the laws that they are put in place. But I think that you need to also interrogate him so that he can come and present. Because I know that engagements are also going on. They are meeting with the stakeholders. They are warned that people should not carry their wood. If you carry wood within that period, you'll be arrested. Some of those people you still protesting. It is owners of trucks that were used to carry wood within this period that they had closed the forest. Why do you violate government authority? Those are some of the people you are seeing going to protest. Because it is our state, we must design a modus operandi on how things must be done in that state. We're talking about tax reforms here. This is part of tax reforms. The tax reforms is saying that, the Asiwaju tax reform is saying that there is no more room for laziness. Leaders must begin to wake up and take advantage of their environment to create wealth, because you'll be taxed and you will earn based on what you produce. If our forest is producing a lot of wood, we should be able to manage it. We should be able to understand what is living. It shouldn't be the oil and gas sector where we don't even know how much we pump.
All right, Engineer Eradiri, well, you have spoken well, but then I would like you to expand more on the issue of the loss of investments currently in Bayelsa State as a result of this. I mean, we would want to understand what you would advise the government to do, especially when it comes to taking care of persons who are saying that their goods were impounded. What would you say should be the next line of action by the government to help such people?
Well, those who their goods were impounded, they will pay the fine. There's no other shortcut around it. They were notified. You see, part of the problem in Nigeria is that we say, no, we will leave them, we will leave them. When you start doing this, you know, because I know you, because I know governor, or because we can protest, we begin to sweep under the carpet rules and regulations. It will get to a crescendo where there will be breakdown of law and order. And what we are facing in Nigeria is that we get away with anything. So if somebody wants to do the right thing, it begins to seem as if they are doing the wrong thing. What the media should also help us do is that those who have been caught violating government directive must pay the penalty. So that next time when you are caught, or when the government gives a directive, it will be respected. We are only governor of the state or the institutions of government when we begin to say, what do we do? How do we, their livelihood, the time when they carry wood when they don't pay to the state. They don't say that they carry the state money they run. Okay. I think that we must encourage government and ensure that the rules and regulations are obeyed. Because when we abuse it here, we can as well abuse it in the other side. Look at the tax reforms. Such a beautiful introduction by the government. Some people say they were not consulted. So all this discussion that Nigeria have been discussing, is it not consultation? Is it not stakeholder engagement? That governors are contributing and withdrawing and adding? That's the discussion that we're talking about.
Okay.
What is important is, how do we generate resources in our states and use the natural resources to create wealth? I told you Akwa Ibom. I don't know whether it is still on. They partnered the Chinese, and they are processing wood in Akwa Ibom. They are providing jobs for the people, and they can control the economic value that comes from the wood. This is what Bayelsa is about to achieve. All those who their vehicles have been impounded, they will pay the fine. Okay. So that next time when they say don't allow your vehicles to be used to carry stolen wood or illegal property, you will not do that.
All right.
So for me, there is no sugarcoating here. Let them face the music so that others can sit up. But I propose to the state, before I left, we set a budget in the Ministry of Environment. And part of that budget, we had said that we need a wood market in Bayelsa. A place where we process the wood, we can saw, we can cut, we can dry, we can treat. So when people come to the state, you can come and buy the entire value chain of wood will be processed in the state. That way we make more money, we provide jobs for our people, and then we can generate the resources that we require. So government in their planning must, along this line, ensure that we set up a wood processing market in Yenagoa.
Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Udengs Eradiri. And I would like to put out the question to you as we wind down. What do you think government can do to help sustain different woods, different trees in the forest, and also to help assist in building a better environment for Bayelsans?
Okay, thank you. One, I believe that, before now, even our forefathers in the ancient days, which did not even know the effect of climate change, were able to protect the natural environment, the ecosystem, by making laws. You used to hear about evil forest. That thing wasn't evil forest. It was a way of indigenous knowledge of protecting what you have for future. You used to hear of rivers you don't visit in the morning, and then they said if you visit in the morning, you will see ghosts. No ghost anywhere. It was just a way of using indigenous knowledge to tell people you can't go to river in the morning, so that people that are coming to river in the daytime will see fresh water to do what? To fish. So those things were working then because people believe in it. Now government needs to make the citizens believe in them in their policies. It's not when you make policies about environment and then because somebody is there close to the government and the person is coming to violate the policies and then you don't do anything about it. There are a lot of policies of government that are there, but the problem is actually what? Enforcement. There are a lot of laws, like you have the Nigerian Forest Law of 2006, the Nigerian Climate Change Act of 2021, and the rest of them. But nobody is there to enforce this thing.
Well,
enforcement is one of the criteria the government need to focus, irrespective of who is involved.
Mr. Asuquo, just before I go to Engineer Eradiri, I'd like you to also access the issue of replanting and, of course, reforestation. We understand that a lot of activities go on in our forests, which, of course, go a long way in harming what goes on in there. And, of course, deforestation is a very big issue. What do you think should be the policy of not just Bayelsa now? We are talking about Bayelsa. We don't know what's happening in other parts of the country where this is an issue. What should be the policy of government in ensuring that we don't have these issues rearing up their ugly heads over now and then?
Okay, now the International Committee on Climate have actually bring out a policy about the forest that if you fall a tree, you should plant 3. So how then I heard that my engineer over there talking about making money. I have not heard him talk about how are you going to invest this money back into the ecosystem, back into the forest? Because if you say your forest is actually generating fund, part of this fund should be used to do what? To put into the forest. Naturally, the ecosystem have a way of replenishing itself because of its resilience. And then because of this, if you push more, if you extract more because of urbanization, development, housing, and the rest of that, then you extract a lot from the ecosystem, pushing it at the point it will not be able to do what? To do its, to protect its biodiversity and the ecosystem function. This is because money is taken. We are looking at the economic aspect of the environment. We are not looking at protecting what we have for future generation. We are talking about sustainability here. If you don't sustain what you have, tomorrow's generation will come and they will not be able to see what you have seen today. Like the monkey now. You look around, you don't even see vultures around because there are no trees. You know, we are not looking at this perspective, but we are looking at how much do we make from the environment. That is the economic perspective, and which is damaging our ecosystem. So government should look into, when you bring in 100% of this fund, how much money are you putting back to reforestation? Reforestation is planting trees in where you had forest before, which they have deforested the place. And then afforestation, making more forests. Government should invest more, as this place is generating money to government. Government should look into putting more money into the environment to protect the environment. Lastly, let me tell you this. The ecosystem, what you call the forest, is the only source that mop out the excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And if you look at the carbon cycle, you discover that the only way carbon is mopped out from the ecosystem is from photosynthesis, which plant gets carbon. Only way. So if you don't have green plant, which is the forest, you may not mop up the carbon from the ecosystem, from the atmosphere. And then what are you looking at? You are looking at excess carbon, and then you are talking about climate change. You are talking about global warming, greenhouse gases everywhere. So government should do more into planting of trees and into protecting what we call biodiversity.
But beyond government, what about the people? Because this is a collective responsibility. While government makes the policy, what should the people be doing?
Okay, now some people do not, like these people that talked about their money, they don't talk about the environment. So there is a way of sensitization, because when you don't know, you may not know what to do. Sensitize these people about what they need to do. Now, community, there is what we call community engagement. They partner with communities, because most of these communities, there are how you make tax. That if you protect your forest and then you don't allow your forest to be degraded, we pay a certain amount of money to the community. The community will know how to make roads because they are closer to the grassroots. Do you understand? And this rules comes in a way. I just talked about evil forests. Do we have those evil forests now? Or are you telling us there's no evil again?
Well, there's
Those
no
were
evil.
policies of the community to protect what they have, because they know if you fall these trees, they may not have trees again tomorrow. So when you engage the community in your policy, you are likely going to succeed. It's not going to be in the part of the government alone. Individuals should look at what we have today as a climate. But in this part of the world, you see that people do not pay attention to what happened to the climate or to the environment. Our biodiversity and their functions are gone. People do not pay attention. People need to sensitize. We need to do a orientation and reorientation about protecting what we have, because it is the environment that protects us.
All right.
Okay.
Engineer Eradiri, well, if you're still there with us, I'd like you to take up this conversation from the aspect of what you feel should be the role of government in ensuring that there's protection to the environment and regulation, proper regulation now of the activities of timber traders in the country, not just in Bayelsa State. The conversation is about Bayelsa State now, but then looking at it holistically, has the government done enough in ensuring that the environment is properly regulated and protected as much as possible?
Okay, thank you. My brother in the studio, I want to thank you very much for the evil forest analogy that you brought up. In fact, you just exposed me to the realities of those evil forest issues. And thank you. Next time when I will be talking about these issues, I now have a very clear example to buttress the sanctity of our forests by even what our forefathers had done at that time to protect it. Tree planting, if you go I'm another advocate to say, yes, tree planting, we can use tree planting to also create jobs for young people and then enrich our forest. So while I was commissioner, if you look at the budget I prepared for when we were leaving, we had carefully inserted tree planting exercise so we can use it to engage our young people and also further against destruction of cash crops like Obona and the rest. But you see, sometimes I begin to wonder, this climate change story they keep talking about, it sure is for us. Because if you go to Brazil and see the way they are logging, we have not even started, we have not even done 0.1%. 0.1%. When Oyibo finish using their own forest to enrich and empower themselves, when they finish using fossil fuels to get their society to where they want, they will quickly coin up all kinds of rhetorics to keep us perpetually hanging on them. And I say that because look at what Trump have just said about the climate change, how it should go and be. He knows that his country is hungry and they need money, and yet they have all the oil. They say they shouldn't drill clean energy. Go to our forest. We have not used 0.01%. At least when I was campaigning, I went around the forest. When I was in the NDDC, I was in Akwa Ibom, I was everywhere. What we are saying here, what our concern is that while you are going into the forest, you must do it according to government regulation. Because in the world, wood is required. Why should we have wood? Akwa Ibom wood will be sent to China, refined in China, processed in China, and brought back to you to buy exorbitantly. Why don't we process it here so that we can get the value chain?
That is the same issue we're having in a petroleum system.
So when I talk about tree planting, yes, it's a way of reviving need, but what our focus will be is on those crops that we think that add value to our lives that have been cut over the years so that we can replant them. Because if I say let's start tree planting, show me the land in the Niger Delta that we have actually over-cleared. That's why agriculture is not progressing in the south. In the north, they have used the Ministry of Agri to clear their land. You can stay in Kaduna and see Kano. So an investor comes in, there is land for him to use. We have not even used the land. All our lands are forests everywhere in the region. But what we are saying here is that the value that people are taking out must be regulated so that we can use that value to create economic activities. But if we begin to follow this, deforestation, go to our forest and see that you can't even move from one point to the other, because everywhere we have all kinds of trees in our forest. We have not started, but let's follow the rhetorics of the West. Afforestation, deforestation, we'll go and plant trees. If I say let's plant 1 million trees, where are we going to plant 1 million trees in Akwa Ibom? So for me, government role is to regulate so that the value that the same Western world have used wood to get. Have you seen the way they are mining wood in America, in Canada, in Europe? We have not even started. We have not even scratched the surface.
Okay,
but
really have to go.
That, it must be regulated by government so that the entire value chain can add value to our society.
All right.
Thank you so much, Engineer Udengs Eradiri. And we must also commend you for of course, you have been partnering with ADBN TV and Passion FM for the cleanup campaign to also send out the message to the people to continue in safeguarding the environment. Thank you so much for appearing on the program today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you two here in our studio. Thank you very much, Leo Asuquo, for coming on the program. We appreciate your time and company.
All right, and thank you so much for staying with us on the program. It's been an incredible show today, of course, getting to talk about matters of concern in the Niger Delta region. We'll return tomorrow for another interesting package. I'm Jennifer Pius.
My name is Xavier Robert, wishing you a terrific afternoon. Bye.